Good afternoon. Hi, Bill. It is so lovely to see you. And I'm really, really delighted that you have said yes to giving us your wisdom and your insights into lean in higher education, the sustainability of lean and continuous improvement. So we've got about 10 minutes, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your perspective on this, which is a really important area, isn't it? Because it's seen as part of the fabric of higher education in many regions of the world, in the US, in Europe, in yes, in also Australasia, all parts of global Lean HE. So thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm
Yeah,
really, really
thanks
delighted
for
that
having
you
me.
are.
Thanks to the Lean HE England and Wales group. I'm sorry I'm not there live, and so I can get the reactions to other panelists about this topic. But I just wanted to quickly just point to on my wall, and I have my wall of projects. My now, soon, later, never list, and on that list with that big arrow is I've been wanting to get to a chapter or a book about the sustainability of lean higher education. So perfect timing. My next project, if I don't run out of gas, would probably be something in that domain. So I'm happy to kind of share some of my thoughts here and see how other people react and feel to it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bill. So what we have on the screen is some slides that we're going to use as waypoints in our chat, in our discussion. And what I think is really interesting is you you've shared your wisdom around this already in many ways, but I think things have suddenly seem to have become a lot harder in the last 2 or 3 years. And I remember when we were all at our amazing meeting in San Diego, University of California, San Diego, and we were all together. I think things felt really positive then, but I think the climate, especially in the UK, has changed around funding and some of the pressures that we have at the moment. So be really, really interested to hear what you have to say generally around lean and HE. So over to you.
Okay, so on the first slide, its question is talking about lean sustainability, and I would challenge anyone to name three higher education institutions that have adopted the lean management system. And I don't mean a pocket of lean. I don't mean lean in one focal area of the institution. I mean adopting a lean management system like Toyota has it throughout the institution. So can you think of three? Think hard. Maybe you could name two. You must be able to name at least one. And I'm thinking, I don't think we've ever hit it. I don't think we've ever done it. So my general question is, how do you sustain something that really never existed? Have we really ever done lean higher education using a broader lean management system? So if you could flip to the next slide, Tammy, please. Um, I've been, being very provocative about this over my career, I guess. And whether you see me as a prognosticator, a predictor of the future, or someone who just likes to complain a lot, here's just a brief Chicken Little tour of some of my papers. And it started way back in the Waterloo Conference in 2015, saying, where's the evidence-based support? I did a paper with some colleagues in 2015, and we found 64 publications. I know we don't publish our stuff, which is a shame, but 64 publications. Over half of them were case studies. Um, about a third of them were sort of conceptual papers, and less than 10% of them were empirical papers. And none of those empirical papers actually looked at, did the implementation of lean higher education work? So we don't really have a lot of evidence that we can share with others. The second paper, can we define it? I lost this battle at the Strathclyde conference. The straw poll vote said, no, we don't really need to have a definition of it. I continue to humbly disagree. Where's the future? Where's the scalability of Lean HE in 2022 at the Melbourne conference? And you referred back to the San Diego conference, Tammy. In 2023, we had this plenary session on the state of lean higher education, on the edge of thriving, surviving, or expiring. And if you're at the conference and maybe remember, I looked at half of the institutions that were doing lean in the book that I wrote in 2020, and half of them had abandoned. Literally half of them had abandoned their lean initiatives. They had moved on to something else, change of leadership, closure of an office, whatever it was. So I've been thinking about this for quite a while, but what I really want to do is focus on where do we go from here? And that's the last slide. And if you could just pull that up, I'd like to try to be, more constructive. So from a concerned and caring curmudgeon, and I tried to reference my points to sections or pages of my 2020 book. I think we really need to define it, because if you can't define it, you really can't evaluate it. You can't say we're doing lean higher education here, and we're saying, well, it's not really, we're not all doing the kind of the same thing. We're not even calling it the same thing. It's really hard to do apples to apples comparisons to say, does it work? To show people that it works, because some will say, well, yeah, but you didn't do it. You didn't include this variable. You didn't include respect for people. Oh, God forbid, you didn't include respect for people in a lean study. So I think maybe we could do more work in that area. And maybe it's time for a global rebranding. Maybe we don't even call it lean anymore, but something where we all agree we have a definition, we're talking about the same thing, we're studying the same thing. I've always been arguing as an organizational psychologist that we give a lot of attention, I'm on point number 2 now, to leadership and culture. You need to have leadership in place to support it. You need to have a culture that's going to support it. And that's all well and good. But from my perspective as a work psychologist, there are so many other institutional practices beyond leadership and culture. There's decision-making practices. How do we make decisions in the organization? Job designs and roles. Are they aligned with doing lean in the institution? Motivation and reward practices. Are people motivated to actually try to do lean, and are they rewarded when a lean project fails, which we know is an opportunity for learning rather than an opportunity for punishment? Personnel practices. Are we hiring, training, evaluating people on whether they're using lean, and so forth? There's like 16 institutional practices. We need to think about aligning more of them, not just leadership and culture, to really support implementing lean in higher education institutions. We really need proof, point number 3. We don't really have any large-scale institutional studies that we can take to higher education leadership and say, see, this stuff really works in a really controlled quasi-experiment or field experiment, or however we're going to do it, to help them understand that this works, and it works on metrics that are important to you. I know we like to talk a lot about, well, we eliminated 3 steps from the process, or the process went down from 19 minutes to 17 minutes, or the customer, client, student, whoever was happy with the process or seemed happy, even though we might not have measured happiness. What are the metrics that are important to higher education leaders? Make sure those are included, and make sure we do some studies where we can bring proof to them that these really work. Number 4 is we really need to reach higher education institution leadership directly. We don't really have that pipeline in place right now. We need to go to their meetings and talk to them in their settings. We need to write short pieces in the literature that they read. They're not reading scientific journals for sure, but where can we write short pieces in places where they're going to pick up a 1-page article on here's what lean higher education can do for your organization. That's something that really grasps their attention, and we can, draw them in. And then finally, point number 5 is we need to tell our story, but not just to ourselves. We are kind of like this small echo chamber where we're all on board with lean higher education, and we talk to ourselves, we present to ourselves at conferences, we share things among ourselves. But I think we really need to get out of the group. This is, I know Vincent Weigel is gonna be at the session, but Vincent and I, as an example, are currently finishing up a book on that's written for faculty members to say, here's what we call a continuous improvement, because we didn't think they'd like the word lean. Here's what continuous improvement can do to help you improve your teaching and your students' learning. So we're not writing it toward or directing it towards other lean HE people, but who do we want to do this? Who do we want to engage with this? It's the faculty, because that's where the heavy lift of higher education is all about, teaching and learning. So I think there are opportunities. There's certainly things we can do. I'm not pessimistic about it, but we need a plan or a strategic plan, maybe a little Hoshinkanri, Tammy, to really think about how we can do this as an organization, that we can collaborate together. Like maybe who wants to work on a chapter or a book on the sustainability of lean HE, or who wants to work on a cross-institutional study of lean HE practices where we can show that it's really good for employees. We actually collect data and show that it really benefits employees as well as students and the bottom line of dollars or whatever. So I wish you a great little conference session, a mini conference there, and I hope it all goes well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bill. And I think there's so much for us to unpick there, but I was just reflecting on what you were saying around how we embed this within faculty. And as my role as director of studies, we have 3,000 students, 7 programs. We have 90 modules that we deliver over the year within my business school. And one of the things that we do every year is look at sort of continuous enhancement plans. So I think a lot of the things that we talk about and tools that we have are there, but the language is different. But actually having it embedded and showing people the value of having an improvement cutter, for example, having a Hoshinkanri for every program and every discipline, every faculty, I think would be amazing. So I think there it's a call to action, and thank you for doing that. And one of the things we could maybe explore is how do we do this study? How do we bring people together and do that? So I think we need to have another conversation after we've had the session. Thank you so much, Bill.
Yeah,
Always,
and
always a delight to see you.
And let me just, and I'll just, as a final addition, is just say, the way to do that, remember we created that community of practice to look at strategic planning at Hoshinkanri, and we got people together. Everybody worked hard on it, and we got a book that was, I think, added some value to our Lean HE community. We could do the same thing here. So, thanks, Tammy.
Brilliant. Thank you so
Okay.
much. I think we should.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Bill.